Greetings, writing art criticism students. I hope this finds you well and rested and relaxed after a Thanksgiving break. I hope it was all that you wanted it to be and that you are recharged and ready to go for another week. This is week 6. I cannot believe we are closing in on the end of this course. Remember that your final paper proposals are due to me by the end of the week. I think in the syllabus it's Friday, November 30th, but turn it in, get them into me Sunday night, by Sunday night, December 2nd. But the earlier you can get in, the earlier you can get going on working on your paper. And I'll be responding to those this week and digging back out of the weekly responses as well. Again, I apologize for those delays. This week, we are looking at the emergence of abstract expressionism in New York City in the 40s and 50s and the role that the art critics played in it. It's a very interesting period. It's a period that I've done quite a bit of writing on, and I've included some PDFs of my own work in terms of my looking at the art critics Harold Rosenberg and Clement Greenberg and Weldon Keys, and looking at their criticism as a literary genre. We can look at art criticism as a way of judging and interpreting particular works of art, an informal form of hermeneutics, of interpretation of specific works. But we can also look at art criticism, and this is what I've been wanting to emphasize with you throughout our time together, is that art criticism is a literary genre. It has its own integrity as a work of literature. Keep in mind that those who read those writings never see the work. And so the piece of writing exists as the artifact that declares that there is an exhibition. There are works of art that I am talking about, but you're reading what I'm writing. And so in many ways, the art critic, as the close reader and interpreter of paintings hanging on a wall, is a literary fiction, a device that the critic uses in the production of his or her texts. I find that fascinating. And yet somehow and in some way those writings relate to the work of art. What I'm interested in is how. How do they relate? How can they relate? And in particular, this debate, the disagreement between Clement Greenberg and Harold Rosenberg had in many ways precisely to do with this. Greenberg believed that criticism needed to focus on the formal qualities of the work. And as you will read in Harold Rosenberg's most famous essay, The American Action Painters, Rosenberg doesn't mention a work of art at all. And in fact, he says that the specific work doesn't really matter. There are other issues at stake. And so the question is, what are those other issues? And how is a work of art a response to it or emerges from it? Or how does the critic make that connection? So I want you to be sensitive to the readings in regard to how the criticism itself, like the paintings, come out of the same context. So for example, we could say that you have the painting, and then the only way for the criticism to exist is if it's interpreting this painting. But what if there is a context here, and you have painting emerging, and you have criticism emerging? They might look similar, they might relate, it might appear that art criticism is working with paintings, but they have their own trajectories. They're separate manifestations. Two different creative manifestations coming out of a particular moment or a particular community or a particular set of concerns. And certainly in many ways, that's what That's the implication of Oscar Wilde when he talks about criticism as its own creative act, that it looks at the work, takes the work, and uses that as its nature to create something else. So I want you to keep those in mind. Have a great week. Write me if you have any questions, and I'll be back to you at the end of the week with another with a Friday video chat. Take care.